You and I both just witnessed the end of a Steelers era. Last night's playoff game for the Pittsburgh Steelers did not go according to plan. Man, that was a tough one to watch. We saw the first play of the game. Marcus Pouncey snaps it over Big Ben's head, and it goes in for a Cleveland Browns touchdown. It was an absolute killer, and then the rest was a downward spiral, man. The Browns go up 28-0. The Steelers fight back, make it a relatively close game on paper, but it really wasn't that close if you were watching the game. It was definitely a tough pill to swallow. Congratulations to the Cleveland Browns fans. We have to ask ourselves, what does it mean to be the end of a Steelers era? What does the next chapter look like? Well, let's start here. What do you guys think the next chapter looks like? What moves do you want to see the Pittsburgh Steelers make? Because the first thing I got to say, I think you just saw the last game you'll ever see of our Hall of Fame quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger. He was a guy who not necessarily didn't look like he couldn't push it down the field anymore. But my biggest issue is he looked like a 38-year-old quarterback who just didn't want to take a hit anymore. And what I mean by that is I'm not talking about the short passing game. I'm talking about the intermediate to long passing game. He was a guy who focused on the pass rush and then was getting blindsided by coverages. We saw Big Ben make some throws that we haven't seen since his rookie season. And you ask yourself why. It's not like Ben Roethlisberger lost the ability to read an NFL defense, but when your eyes drop down to the pass rush and you take your eyes off the safeties and corners, then you get tricked. That's what happens. We see that all the time with older quarterbacks. They just don't want to take the punishment anymore. I get it, man. I get it. You've had a Hall of Fame career, one of the best ever, and you're still probably an underrated quarterback. I think what's best for Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers if they both part ways. And I think that brings in a chain reaction. If we just saw the last game of Ben Roethlisberger's career, I think that is going to be the end of Marquise Pouncey's career. I think he would play as long as Ben Roethlisberger played, and now that Big Ben might retire, I think Marquise Pouncey might retire. I think if Big Ben leaves, I think the Steelers have to take a hard look at Randy Finkner because he's Big Ben's guy. He was his quarterback coach for a long time. A lot of Steelers fans aren't happy with him, and I try to give him a benefit of the doubt because, the short passing game was working. But here's the thing in the NFL, when people make adjustments to your system, you have to make adjustments to their adjustments. Randy Finkner did not do that, and it killed the Steelers. That brings us to the defensive side of the ball. Okay. Yeah, we looked great on defense earlier in the year. Okay. But that's also with, 3, 4 all-pro players on our defense. Okay. I understand we had injuries. Bush went down. Bud Dupree went down. We didn't have Joe Hayden last night. We missed Vince Williams for a portion of the season. But my problem is when we lost the firepower on defense, we started getting really exploited. And I think that's been a common theme for Keith Butler. Keith Butler's been a guy who obviously succeeds on defense with having one of the best defenses when he has all this talent around him. But here's my biggest problem, okay? I want you we're going to break into a little bit of kind of nerdy football, is when teams line up in a deuce formation, which means 2 by 2. So 2 wide receivers on each side of the field, and they have a tailback in the backfield offset to the quarterback. What a lot of teams will do is they'll take that tailback and they will motion him wide, which what the Steelers will do is they'll take their corner, let's say it's Joe Hayden, they'll slide him over on the tailback, they'll take their nickel back, Mike Hilton, they'll slide him over on the second guy, and they'll take their backer and slide him over the third guy. What teams are doing, we saw the Bills do it with Stephon Diggs, we saw the Browns do it with Jarvis Landry last night, is basically, you're having Robert Spillane on Jarvis Landry. Come on, man. Nothing against Spillane, but how are the linebacker going to cover Jarvis Landry, Stephon Diggs? We saw the Chargers do it 2 years ago with Keenan Allen. That's a common adjustment. That's a team watching film and figuring out what your flaws are. It's extremely, extremely frustrating because I can see it from home. And if I can see it, I know the offensive coordinator can see it. Let's talk about our cap situation next year. We're not in a great cap situation. Ben Roethlisberger's cap hit is $41 million next year. If he retires, that means we'll have about $22 million in dead money. Yeah, we do gain cap space, but we do have a lot of dead money on the book. If Marcus Pouncey retires, I believe that number is somewhere between $4 to $6 million of cap space that will open up on top of the dead money. We look at our free agents. We have a ton of big name free agents. We're talking about, Juju Smith-Schuster, James Conner, Alejandro Villanueva, Cam Sutton, Mike Hilton. We have TJ Watt coming up on his last year of his contract. We have Minka Fitzpatrick coming up on the last year of his contract. We have some big guys to try to re-sign. If I had to guess, I think you just saw the last game ever in the Pittsburgh Steelers uniform for James Conner, Juju, and Alejandro Villanueva. I think the Steelers do everything they can to try to re-sign Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton seems like a guy who could maybe be overpaid on the free agent market. I think if you see Mike Hilton leave, I think the Pittsburghs make it a priority to try to re-sign Cam Sutton and move him into that nickelback role. But as far as bringing in outside talent, one, it's never been the Steelers' MO. Two, it's going to be difficult when you're against the wall of salary cap that the Steelers perpetually are because they always kick the can down the road. They mess with the signing bonuses, which frees up money currently, but also makes them strapped the following years to come. Here's maybe the biggest question of them all. Mike Tomlin. I understand a lot of Steelers fans, for one reason or another, don't like Mike Tomlin. I'm not sure why. He's one of the best coaches in the NFL, and I don't really see how that's debatable. I do get the idea that the Steelers have badly underperformed. In the past 10 years, they've only won 3 playoff games. Not good. That stuff's easy to look at, but also look at, what Mike Tomlin does, what those players do for Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin retains talent, by the way. And if you don't think so, you think that's all Kevin Colbert, or if you just think that's kind of the Steelers' way, I think you're mistaken. Have you ever heard a Steelers player talk bad about Mike Tomlin? No. Think about what Mike Tomlin did for 10 years of Antonio Brown. We thought he was a normal person for, 9 of his years in the league. We thought he was a little bit of a prima donna, but we didn't realize he's an absolute crazy person. As far as X's and O's, I know we always talk about a Bill Belichick, which we should because he is a mastermind. But I think Mike Tomlin does slide underneath the radar as far as X's and O's. We know he's a defensive-minded guy, and I think he does a lot of the halftime adjustments as far as defensively. Do I think we should get rid of Mike Tomlin? Absolutely not. Do I think it's the Steelers' way? Absolutely not. But I've already seen about 10 million posts on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram of fire Mike Tomlin. He's the worst, blah, 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 blah. And I think people outside of the Pittsburgh community don't necessarily understand how much Pittsburgh fans hate Mike Tomlin for, like I said, whatever reason. Now, you ask yourself, what does the future look like? If you're losing your captain, the quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, that's the biggest question of them all. Who replaces him? Free agent market, not a lot of guys out there. Dak Prescott's not going to make free agency. They're going to tag him. Probably the best guy in the market is Jameis Winston. I don't mind Jameis Winston. I probably like him more than most, but I'm sure the Saints want to re-sign him with Breeze probably in his last season. That means you have 2 other options. Let's start with the most common one, and the one the Steelers will probably do is they'll attack this need in the draft. Let's go get Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. It's going to take a lot of draft capital to get up and get those guys. Yeah, they're tremendous talents. We just can't get them, which means you're going to kind of fall down to that next tier. I think a lot of people are really hyping up Mac Jones. I'm not a huge Mac Jones fan. And it's not that I don't think he's a good quarterback or anything. I just think he's a guy who's going to be held back from that elite talent. Or I should say that elite echelon because of his talent level. He's very pedestrian in his, overall athletic ability, his arm talent. He's a leader. He throws the ball pretty accurately, but he's, you're never going to mistake him for an Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes, or even a Josh Allen. I kind of see Mac Jones having a little bit more of a Andy Dalton type career of a kind of a game manager who makes some throws here and there. Guy I like, and he's a guy I've been kind of watching for a while. That is Trey Lance from North Dakota State. I'm a fan of his game, man. He's a big guy, kind of puts you in a mind of a body style of a Josh Allen. He runs the ball extremely well. Yeah, he's a little raw as a passer, but if you're going to play Mason Rudolph for the next year, it gives this young man time to develop, and we'll kind of see what he's made out of. I like it, man. I'm always for take the chance, especially at the quarterback situation. You have a 50-50 shot no matter what. You might as well get the guy with the high upside. I remember a guy named Patrick Mahomes who people said, he's raw, he won't develop. I remember a guy named Lamar Jackson who they said, he's raw, he won't develop. I remember a guy named Josh Allen who they said, he's raw, he won't develop. I like Trey Lance, man. That's who I want. I would love to see him in a Steelers uniform to get some of the best coaching in the world. The other option for the quarterback situation that I've seen Pittsburgh Steelers fans talk about is a guy by the name of Deshaun Watson. That would be dope. Don't get me wrong. Love me some Deshaun Watson. Here's the thing, guys, that you have to keep into consideration is bare minimum to get Deshaun Watson. You're talking about probably 2 first-round picks, a second, and probably a third at the minimum. Probably you're going to be looking at trading 3 first-round picks. Now, that is great. That is a home run shot if you think you have the team to win the Super Bowl and you're a quarterback away. Here is my problem. Yeah, you address that quarterback situation, but now you have a hole at center. You're going to have a hole at left tackle if Villanueva leaves. You have a hole at tailback. You're going to probably have a hole at strong safety because I doubt the Steelers are going to sign Terrell Edmonds to his 5th-year extension. You have a hole at nose tackle because Tyson Alualu is a free agent and 33 years old. You're going to have very, very shortly a hole at cornerback because Joe Hayden is approaching his mid-30s, and he's probably going to be a cap casualty here, if not next year, the year after. You have some holes, and you got to address some of those in the draft. Yeah, a running back you can probably get in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. You know, a lot of these best tailbacks in the league are late draft guys, but it's going to be tough to find a blindside tackle on the left side late in the draft. Yeah, can you strike gold? Sure. Okay. But not really that common. To get another elite center, you know, you look at Steelers history, man. You talk about a Mike Webster, a DeMighty Dawson, a Marquise Pouncey, a Jeff Hardings, you know, some of the best centers in the league at their time. You know, 3 of those guys are going to be Hall of Famers. That's not something I think you're going to get a high level guy in the 4th, 5th round. Again, possible, but doubt it. It's definitely going to be interesting, guys, what we talk about what the next chapter, the next era of the Pittsburgh Steelers is going to look like. Ben Roethlisberger is taking us for a hell of a ride. I love Big Ben. He's one of my favorite Steelers of all time. It's going to be interesting, guys. I want to hear what you guys think. Drop it in the comments. What do you think the Steelers need to do? If you guys like the episode, click like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.